Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting adventure of MMO development content. I'm Derek Stevens, the crow on the forums. At my side, 50 Shades of Nelson. Hope you're doing well tonight. We have Mr. Steve Curtis, we have NATO, Captain Ron, and a plethora of other people with us. We've got lots to discuss tonight, some really cool news, and I want to immediately give the floor to our president and founder of this small corporation of MMO developing people that was elected in democratically, Mr. NATO.
Hello. Right, so the biggest thing is that for people who haven't been here for the past 2 weeks, there was basically a miscommunication between the group and, well, myself and Jason about the direction of the project. That has now been resolved. Things are basically moving on as they were before all that happened. So essentially, we are still making an MMO, first and foremost. The important factor is that instead of having a content-driven system, even a PvP content-driven system, we are having matches. Those matches have a arena-style gameplay to them. We are not making a Soul MOBA, as people like to call them, a LOL or a Dota style game. We are using some of those mechanics in the matches, and the first milestone is quite focused on getting those matches down strongly and really well, but there are further assets and further systems that make it more like an MMO. So I don't want anyone to panic about what's going on at the moment. There is a plan which is progressing slowly. But yeah, we're not making a MOBA, we're still making an MMO. It just has flavors of League of Legends and Dota in there.
We're combining a lot of different things and making it our own. We're taking, in my humble opinion, we're almost cherry picking some of the best concepts and ideas from all these different genres and putting it to an MMO. Am I correct by saying this?
Well, it's more looking at what we want to produce and what's the best way of doing that, with an eye to looking at the kind of games that are out at the moment and what sort of content people might be wanting to produce anyway. So it's a kind of mixture of mixing styles and looking at what's popular at the moment.
And also with the flavor of what we can actually get done in the least amount of time, I think.
Well, it's not so much the least amount of time. It's all the decisions I've made have been based off the logic. It's sort of based off a logical design, which is really based around what we can produce and what we can make, and still making that a fun and interesting game to play that's engaging and keeps people playing.
And there we go. Perfect.
So what do you want to talk about to your development team tonight, Mr. NATO?
I'm actually interested to know who we have still with us, because we seem to have lost more people every time we have meetings. I mean, there are 7 of us in here at the moment, one of which is Nelson, and Steve and Derek. But yeah, essentially, there's a game design document which is coming along slowly. The area I'm kind of working on at the moment is specific attributes, specific skills, that kind of area, the maths behind it, which is kind of, it's quite tricky and requires a lot of thought and kind of trying to work out how to approach the problem. So yeah, there's not that much to discuss directly, but I am interested to know if anyone has any questions or similar that I can answer for them, to try and clear up some of the confusion that's been happening.
Captain Ron, this would be a perfect segue into any questions you have, buddy.
Well, I mean, just no more than what I was typing in here. So basically, I mean, essentially what we're doing is taking a lot of concepts or ideas from other gameplay and, whatever was missing we'll add, whatever was working we'll take. But I also added, I was curious, we're going to do this arena MMO, which is great because I think that's really basic, that's simple, it seems easy to start with. But are we going to sort of do like an old Republic thing where you have your arena, but you also have an open world aspect? I mean, are we gonna expand this, or are we gonna be like Monday Night Combat where, we just go in and do arena style team play fighting?
Okay, I'll run through the full concept so that it's down on video and everyone has heard it in its entirety as much as I can get out. The game itself is an open world MMO. There are a series of cities on the map which can be held by one of two factions. Characters are members of one of these two factions, and that was a really poor way of starting an explanation.
Are you talking more about like a conquest? We go through and we take over points of interest and try to hold them while
there are
others
kind of
take
two.
them over?
Yeah, there are kind of two aspects of the game. There is a persistent world in which there are these cities which can change hands dependent on the player's actions as a whole, as a group. And then there are the matches, which are sort of 10-player or so small-scale arenas. The outcome of those arenas affects the character progression of individual characters. It also is used to calculate who controls particular cities. For example, characters will have, or players will have matches, have these arenas to either attack or defend a particular city that they're holding or want to take. And then the aggregate score of all the matches over a particular time period will be used to calculate who holds that city. And then outside of matches, players can go into the persistent world, run around the cities, do quests, do a small amount of PvE content, and kind of get into the world and experience it. I'd quite like to have an economy system. I'd quite like to have a some form of guild system, possibly, that kind of thing. So it's using the concept of matches to bridge the gap between something like a really open world PvP combat system like PlanetSide, which requires an awful lot of players to make it viable. So crossing that kind of style with the RPG World of Warcraft style, the use of these arenas basically means that we can have a smaller player base while having large worlds. So essentially you don't need to have thousands of players to be in your game world for there to be anyone to fight against.
So are you saying that when we go into a match, that match will depict control of a particular area?
It will be used to calculate, adding to the calculation of who controls that area. So if you win 10 matches on a particular city, there is a high degree of chance that you might take that city. Whereas if you lose five matches in a row, there's a chance you might lose that city. It's not sort of a one-for-one. You don't win a match and then immediately take the city. It's kind of an aggregate score. It works out. We'd program it so it would work out kind of the effectiveness of a battle and how much that would impact on who controls the city over a time period.
That sounds good.
Yes.
Do we have any? Go ahead.
Yeah, sounds fine to me.
What's that?
I said, yeah, that sounds fine to me.
Oh, will the battle, the arenas be the only PvP or there will be
Um,
bigger ones or free roaming ones?
I am playing with the
I
concept
would kind
that I am playing with the concept of allowing single one-on-one combat. That's perfectly fine, but also allowing in cases where a city is just about to tip over or is very close to tipping over, you can get a large group of players together for one faction and go and take that city. And it is an out-of-match kind of method of taking a city without having to do a series of matches. It's engaging in in the persistent world PvP rather than the match-based instance PvP. There's also, if we do implement guilds or groups of some form, and we have a strong economy system, there's nothing stopping groups of players battling over resources, over land, or whatever. I wouldn't kind of restrict the out-of-game combat. The match system primarily exists to be a sort of standard play base where you can log in. You should be able to find a match no matter what time it is. And that match should be approximately the same level as you. It shouldn't be like you're level 5 and you're facing level 200 people, that kind of thing.
How do we do that? Is there some sort of algorithm? And look, me use
Yeah,
big words.
You'd write an algorithm that would you'd write a matching system. I can't remember what they're called. Yeah, essentially you'd write a system that that matches players with each other into teams.
I know, like in City of Heroes, a long time ago when I first played it, you could have a sidekick, so you'd have somebody that was like maybe 5 or 6 levels higher than you, and you could join them as their sidekick, and you could go adventuring with them in instances where otherwise you'd be killed. Do you think that would be a good idea?
Not sure. No, I'm not sure that would work. I mean, in the PvE stuff, maybe, but in the PvP, at least for the matches, the important thing to me is fairness, so that it really comes down to the player's skill and their ability rather than it comes down to having either a perfect build or just being higher levels than anyone else, which I think is kind of a bit limiting gameplay-wise.
Okay. I can dig that. Any other questions?
Yeah. For outside open world PvP, what would you have to have both sides agree to it, or would it be something like they had? I can't remember
Like
what
you're
the
flagged? Do you have to flag yourself for PvP?
well, or just you could ask somebody if they wanted to fight with you. But there's a
Yeah, ask
there's a
somebody
game
to tool.
there's a game I can't think of what it is called right now, but where you could attack anybody as long as you were outside of the cities. You could attack anybody, but then there would be like something like a symbol over you so everybody could see it, so people could attack you without getting any penalty. So you kind of had a penalty. So pretty much if people saw you with that thing, that marker over you, they would gang up and kill you. So you had to kind of, there was a penalty for it a bit. So
I wouldn't introduce a penalty for PvP combat because that's kind of what we're trying to. Yeah, that's kind of it's an encouraging. It would be kind of be mixed. Let me start that sentence again. We'd kind of be mixing our metaphors and mixing our kind of purpose if we were to punish players for fighting each other, when that's exactly what they do in matches. I mean,
the reason
kind of more divisive than, say, in something like World of Warcraft, where you can kind of, if you flag yourself as not PvP, then no one can attack you. You can just walk around amongst other, the other side and just be perfectly fine. In reference to duels, duels are fine, not a problem with that. But in terms of sort of flagging yourself for PvP, I would essentially have if you are outside of a city that is held by your faction, it is essentially open. You are open to being killed. There's no, I wouldn't have any sort of protection. There's sort of a risk-reward idea there, where outside of cities you might have more resources, you might have better resources, or other such things which aren't necessary for the gameplay, but give your character a boost, give you something that you want, something that's useful to you. So you kind of weigh up the risk-reward.
Well, that's kind of opening up a can of worms. I mean, is that the expression? Anyway, the danger I see with that is so, like just griefing. You know, I mean, like people, like anybody who doesn't have a massive amount of friends on or something, or is walking around trying to do a quest, and somebody comes in higher level, I mean, a group of people really come in and like kill them, and I see people, you know, that might make me never want to play a game again. It's like, oh, forget this.
This is kind of why it's a sort of a risk-reward situation, in the sense that there would be a limited sort of profit to going out of cities and sort of engaging the world. In that sense, everything outside cities is, if I understand from what Nelson was thinking, is going to be constantly generated. So there are unlikely going to be sort of random quests just out in the world, because that would be very technically difficult to do. It's much more likely that there will be certain areas of resources that you can go and mine and access and collect. Now, there was a concept of potentially allowing players to purchase land and construct buildings. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because as big as the world might be, we would run out of space eventually if you project out to a larger player base. One of the reasons why griefing to me isn't so much of something I'm worried about is that the player base we're talking about and the size of the world we're talking about, you would very rarely run into somebody else unless they are specifically coming for you, in which case they'd be coming to a city that is controlled by the other faction, in which case there will be sort of NPC guards. There would be methods to stop them basically sitting outside the city and ganking anyone who came out. It is a problem. It's always going to be a problem in an MMO. There's essentially two methods of sorting it. You either coddle the player and go, oh, it's all okay, you can run around, do whatever you like, and there's absolutely no risk of you getting harmed if you press this special button here, or you basically say, well, yes, it is dangerous out there, yes, there are resources that you might want to get, but there's no extra gameplay, there's nothing you're technically missing out on by not doing so.
Does that answer you? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you're having quests to go out, I mean, people know where the quests are, so they can kind of go, well, if you're going to have to go into this cave, to get, to solve this quest, so they can just kind of camp out there. But yeah, I mean,
that's the risk. That's always the risk you take with a PvP game,
right? Which
is primarily what we're making.
But I think, I mean, other games have made workarounds to kind of to make that not as much of a problem.
Yes, but you start then diluting your sort of core engagement. You start diluting what your game is about. Is your game more about existing in a world and doing nebulous things in that world, or is your game about something specific, in this case a battle between two factions, between the humans and the Letheans over the surface of the planet?
Okay, well, what about if you if you can't attack your own faction, then that's a whole different thing, because then you at least have allies. Even if you haven't made any friends yet, you have allies in just your faction. And so they're, you know, someone sees someone. I mean, you could reward somebody for helping another faction person out, you know,
Potentially.
bonus experience or something.
I'm very much thinking that,
Uh-huh.
that anything outside of the matches currently is essentially a future development thing. I really want to get the matches down and sorted specifically, because that's kind of the core of the game. And then kind of
Sorry.
developing stuff from that.
A lot of good ideas are being muddled out.
Ooh, echoes.
Sorry about those echoes. Still going on. Steve, take lead, because I'm echoing the poop out of everything. Hi, this is Steve. I hate everybody.
Sorry guys, I was muted. Oh, I'm echoing too.
For a second.
Yeah. Who's echoing?
I don't know.
You're not echoing.
Hello?
I think we're sorted.
We're not echoing anymore. Okay, good.
A lot of good points have been brought up. I really think we need to stick to... I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. A lot of good points have been brought up, but I really believe we need to stick to the core concepts of what NATO is talking about. We can always build upon it, but as long as we have a good solid framework, like Captain Ron was saying, we can definitely add and do other things. I don't want to make, I guess, the onslaught so complicated that we lose all the trees because of the forest.
No, however, it is kind of worth thinking about any future plans we have. I mean, I think we've gone a little past where I would have naturally, but it is worth thinking, right, well, how does our decisions now affect the implementation of the persistent world model in the future? I mean, to me, what I'm thinking about is the stats system. If we're going to have some PvE content, whether that's some basic quests when you're fighting monsters or whatever, fighting anything that isn't a player, then it kind of changes how I would design a stats system. So that's kind of one of the things that's slowing me down, is I'm chewing through a couple of ideas, defining how character abilities are defined, and how those abilities affect what your character, the strength of your character. I mean, I have two sort of models at the moment. One is based around having sort of 3 core attributes, where you have sort of strength, dexterity, and intelligence, and that kind of, your character is one of these things, has one of these as a primary attribute. So if they're a strength character, they might be a fighter or a tank. If they're an agility character, they might be a ranger or a sniper or something like that. Or intelligence, they might be a mage or an engineer or something. And then from those is derived the strength of your character's abilities. That model's quite simple, and it's also quite limited. It has the bonus of there being specific stats that the player can look at and go, my character has 10, 20, 30 strength, and they can kind of understand it better than the other model, which is you have kind of less, they have a sort of abstracted stats which are focused on the combat, not necessarily what the character can do. So they're things like ability power or attack damage, that kind of thing. So they're more about the combat. Now, arguably, the systems roll into one. It's kind of how you're presenting the information to the player, and how you want to handle the maths, but I'm not I'm playing around with these sort of 2 key ideas and molding them between, which reminds me of something which I kind of wanted to talk to Nelson about beforehand, but I didn't manage to, so I'll talk to him about it now, if he's awake.
Yeah.
So, so we have the concept of items that exist permanently, that characters have and they take between things in matches themselves, and they use outside of matches to fight each other. Now, I was thinking the other day that if we're going to have the persistent world be generative, could we, and we want to avoid having kind of iterative releases of more and more powerful weapons, which is time-consuming in producing content. Could we implement a kind of almost Borderlands style system for generating weapons, for generating gear and items, where you might have a item type which has a series of statistics assigned to it, like strength or agility or whatever, and then you would randomly allocate a number of points relative to the item's level, as it were, to generate a random weapon whenever you do so.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an interesting thing to look into and build. My biggest concern would be the visual aspect of it. I mean, developing the visual aspect and have it be randomized isn't that difficult, but I would need to get assets that work together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm.
Like, scopes, different scopes that could be bolted onto the same frame, different kinds of.
The word you're looking for is modular, where everything will snap together just right away.
Basically,
Yeah.
Mr. J!
For things that need to be put together, like you would have shotgun parts and you have rifle parts, and the idea would be I would be able to take those parts and randomize an appearance, which I think is important. As far as the stats of generating that's an interesting problem and not at all impossible.
Okay, cool.
How would we model that out to make everything, fit? Will it resize everything because, the Elysians will be a different size to the humans, or am I thinking too far advanced?
You guys would be building the models all to a scale of, let's just call it 1. So all of the models would assume that all of the modular parts would assume that the scale is at 1, and then I could take that 1 and scale it up or down depending on the size of the person carrying it.
Okay.
And then that should work.
I mean, currently I am literally just thinking you would tint an icon in your inventory of what color it was, define kind of what attribute it was, and then you'd hover over and see some different stats. So these items are kind of things your character would have for quite a long time, in theory. So they're kind of not sort of, you wouldn't have them for years, you might have them for a couple of weeks or so before you gained a bit more experience and you went and bought an item. One of the things I'd like to do is again, this is very far in the future, is have an economic system where all the items in there, so all the gear your character has outside of matches comes from other players. So this random gear it's randomized when the character creates it, and then you put it up on a marketplace and people buy it and then put it on their character and etc. etc. etc.
Does any other game allow you to do that right now?
Eve
Oh,
Online is the kind of system where almost all the content on there is created by other users. So if you want to buy a ship, then you are most likely buying it off another player. There are sort of more expensive normally than the base value of any item, sort of basic stuff that you can buy, like basic ammunition, basic ships, but that sort of high tier stuff entirely comes from other players, I believe. But again, that's a very much a future plan. Right now, I'm very much focusing on trying to get the matches down. That idea came to me in the bath, I think it was, and I just thought I should ask Nelson about that, see what he thinks.
So to get clear, you thought about Nelson in the bathtub, just throwing that out.
Tangentially, yes.
Did you just going to leave that alone so we don't push off a cliff and need to start recording again? No, well, Nelson, so do you like the idea then?
Yeah, it's an interesting problem to solve. The biggest unknown is simply the assets, but that's not my department anyway. So if you guys can pull it off, then I'd be happy to implement it.
Oh, baby, we'll pull it off. I promise you that.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking if there's anything else I need to talk about. If you haven't read the current game design document, it's available in the Dropbox, and I think there's a link off the forums. It's not massively long, but then there's what I think is long, and there's what other people think is long. Let me see how many words is it so far. Come on, open up. It's only just shy of 4,000 words, which isn't actually that much. So if you have a chance, please give it a read, give me some feedback on it. I'm going to try in the next week or so to try and hammer out the stats system, because really that's the next thing I need to sort out. Without that, I can't kind of come up with sort of projected game length, or how to project a game length to the length we want it, and various other things, and all the other bits of maths that we need to actually implement it. And that's giving me a bit of grief, because that's starting to get into kind of small scale design, small low level design, which I'm not particularly good at. So if there's anyone out there who is good at maths and is decent at sort of thinking logically and design in a design sort of frame of mind, that would be useful to give me some ideas.
Oh, cool. It sounds like you've been very busy.
Yeah, various things. I mean, this has taken a little bit of a backseat for a couple of other things that have come up, but things have, I'm in a very much a thinking stage rather than a very much a doing phase, so there's a bit more scope to consider things and take it a bit slower. I want to kind of do this right rather than do it quickly.
No, I agree. I'd rather do it right and only have to do it once instead of go back and have it revisit this and revisit that, make something we're proud of from the get-go, not have patch after patch after patch, and then you lose players.
We're going to have patch after patch after patch, but that's not unusual for these sort of games. But yeah, I'm glad that I managed to have a chat with Jason, and I'm feeling a bit more happy about kind of his input on it. I mean, as the issue that came up was basically there was a miscommunication. The concept didn't get transferred to Jason in its entirety, which is unfortunate, but these things happen. So, but now he's been kind of fully informed, and we've talked it out, and he's happy for us to continue down this path.
I'm happy. I know Steve has been working on some models. I've been doing some modeling. Mr. J, you got some models done for later on tonight? Yes, Derek, I do. I've been modeling my head off. That's my Mr. J. Do I sound like him? You're muted, Mr. J.
I am muted. Oh my goodness. No, I've got some some modeling done. Not a lot, but some.
All right, good. What I'm excited about is we're starting to move into that phase, and we'll go back. We'll delve in all that when it's our art side. Let's continue the discussion for game development. So everyone needs to read the game document, and we're going to start implementing stuff when Mr. NATO actually doing.
So yeah, I'm not actually sure what there is left for me to talk about right now, unless there's any more questions. I mean, I'd be interested to know if Nelson's done any more with his getting people to run around implementation. Which, if he hasn't, that's perfectly understandable. You have a lot of other things on your plate. I'm just curious.
Mr. Nelson, you there?
Yeah. Am I supposed to be answering
I
a
was just,
question?
sorry?
Did someone ask me something?
I did ask you just if you'd had for an update on where you were with your running around.
No update. Probably no update until next week. I've been working hard on
Cool.
a different product.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wondered. Okay.
I
Can you
started
share-
some stuff a couple days ago, but it's nothing concrete yet, and there's no running around. Someone wants you to tell them where the document is located in Dropbox.
It is in Game Design Documents, Chris Morris pipe bracket A2. I don't know why there are two versions. Why are there two versions?
I don't know. Probably Nelson's fault.
Which one is this this update? Scanning through, they seem to be very similar. Oh no, they don't. You want the version 2. In fact, that one shouldn't exist. Yeah, okay. There should only be one version there now. If in question is the file, that file name, which I just posted in BuzzNet, which is Project Alethea milestone 1 gdd hyphen va0_2.pdf. I don't know why it's created a second copy, but it has. So that's currently where we are up to. There are quite a few gaps, there's quite a few things that need tidying up, but as I said, I can't really go much further until I define the character attributes in at least a rough shape. So yeah, that's all I have for design at the moment.
Ima nevidljivu glavu. Znaš, moraš to da kažeš. Pošto se čeče i onda kad sedi spreda ovako se pomera vrat. On moraš to da objasni da se to tako, zašto on čeče. Pošto ima nevidljivu glavu. Ko?
What?
Onaj pravi tiku.
Hello?
Glavu. I onda zato nosi tiku, znači glavu.
What's going on here, guys?
I have no idea.
Mogu se naučiti.
Apparently,
All right, thank you. Words, nothing but words. That's what's in books, by the way, words. I'll tell you what, this is a perfect time to take a small 5-minute break. Mr. J, load up your art stuff. I got some art stuff to show. And Steve, please load up your artwork as well. And I know
But I sent it to you. You can just put it on yours.
No, I can't. I can't do that. It's on my phone.
It's a JPEG.
Yeah, but I can't go around my screen, Mr. Steve, because God knows what you're going to see.
Fine.
I'm just warning you. Just warning you.
Alright, break time.
Break time. I need some... Everybody, welcome back. Here's Turley, Mr. Derek T. Stevens on break. I pondered 42, the question and answer of life. Mr. Nelson was doing the 50 Shades of Nelson dance. We are back. Glad to be back. It's time for the art segment of today's, I guess, presentation, so to speak. And I don't want to be selfish, so I won't go first. And I did tell you, in all fairness, Mr. J, to queue up all what you have so far, correct? You're on mute again, Mr. J.
Yep, I did.
See, it's not just me who does that.
Silly man. And Mr. Wolf, do you have anything tonight to share?
I do not.
Well, really? I'm going to Google You Live Too and throw cats at you. Little bitty kittens. All right. So Mr. J get a gold star. I know Mr. Curtis gets a gold star as well. I get 2 gold stars because I hand them out. So let's see what you got so far tonight. If you could take his screen, Mr. 50 Shades Nelson, that would be awesome.
Ooh, Mr. J? Mr. J?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is that-
And yeah, I think you're talking about me.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. J. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Mr. J. Yes, Mr. J.
It's a good thing you're not a programmer, Derek, because you know you have to be really explicit with things.
Oh, he can be explicit.
Oh yeah, we know that.
Yeah, let's not go there.
I love it so far.
Yep, it's going good. I need to work on some edge flow stuff, and figure out how to do like clothing folds low poly, but I'll get there.
So what's the poly count so far?
Mirrored, it's 1,000 roughly, 1,100 something.
Let me look at your typology.
The topography, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Don't make me be explicit because I will.
It's better than mine.
Looks good. Let me ask you something. For the elbows, ankles, and wrist. Before I'd always put like 3, in essence, rings around there for animation purposes. Now, for gameplay, we don't need to put all that detail there, correct? Because, you know, for skinning and rigging and...
You still need those 3 rings to make it animate right, like, because otherwise you'll get like weird, like pointy things that will come out.
We don't want weird pointy things to come out.
Yeah.
Okay? Just so
Yeah.
we're on the same...
The joints basically are where you spend your polys.
Okay, roger that. Let me ask you something about the boot, because what I did for my Alethian today is I made the hand and the fingers are all separate geometry, combined the models together after I took the faces out and joined them up like that. The same thing with the foot. Do not make fun of my foot. I literally was working very diligently, and apparently when you save the new Maya, new Maya?
I'm working at max.
Yeah, whatever. It has a thing where it says continue or something else, and I picked to something else and totally crashed my system. So then I was like playing catch up. Within like, instead of like 8 hours, I had 3 hours to do everything again, and like, so anyway, very well done. I'm proud of it. It looks really good.
I cheated and used an old model, and I just completely modified it, basically.
You make me feel a lot better about that, and I hate you for it. But that's smart. I mean, why work hard? Work smart, right?
Yeah, I also did that because I realized I had an hour and a half before class to get something done.
All right. Nelson, load up the kittens. That's all I can say. Catapult. It looks really good. And I like, okay, I can tell from the concept art, she's not support. Yeah, she's support, right?
DPS, the pointy
DPS.
boots.
Pointy boots, DPS. And it looks good. It's very stylized. I like that.
Yep. Now I just have to figure out how to do pointy shoulders. That's going to be harder to do.
I'm making separate geometry and you're comparing it to the shoulder bone.
That's probably a better idea than what I'm doing.
I mean, that would be a problem, right, Mr. Steve? To just separate geometry. I mean, this is like the armor that we're going to create.
No, you can do that.
And that way we can already have it in our arsenal. Once we have our base models down, we can start building, assets for the armament. And I'm really looking forward to that. That will be fun. And I really think...
Should I be doing separate geometry for the boots?
Let's keep it all as one model for the time being. Is my take on it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah, it just makes our lives so much easier.
Okay, you're the man. Man the plan. I will concur. Mr. Steve Curtis, do you concur?
I concur.
We have all concurred. Well done. I like it. Do you have anything else to show us tonight?
Nope, that's pretty much it.
Can you, for those who, because Captain Ron's new, if you can, load up your concept art to compare this to? Because I really want to give you compliments and some kudos. I mean, you've kept the idea and the flow for it, so that's really good. Captain Ron, you feel like modeling anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I told you I would start a character. I've just been absent for the last 2 weeks. So I'll
Do you have a
be
note from your
returning.
doctor? Do you have a note from your doctor to return to work with us?
Actually, yeah, I do.
All right, good.
So
Hey,
yeah, I'll be returning to it this week. I have some weapon concept art that I'm working on, and I wanted to start a character.
Hey, do me a favor, Mr. J. Send me that your front view that you have there, so we can all work on the same image planes. I literally was in a meeting this morning, and Steve will contest or concur that my image planes are a little bit slanted, and I mean, I just eyeballed everything and threw them together so I could get some quick image planes done and start modeling. But if we
Yeah,
can work-
actually, I never even actually loaded those up. I just started freehanding some stuff for just to test.
well, that's good. But if we can take this from the base model, because I love it the way it's rendered, and then I'll draw the hands and the Alethian feet and make slight adjustments. But then we can have one core sort of body type that will have the style that we're looking for. What do you guys think about that? I think
Sounds
that's a
good
great
to me.
idea. That way we're all working on the same thing. Now, how closely does your model fit those image planes?
It does not fit it at all. That's one of the things I was going to have to go back and do.
That's all right, though. That way we will start working from the same base. Let me ask you this. My idea, and I want to stay away from Avatar. I don't want to make the Alethians that big, but I do see them taller than humans. What do you guys think about that?
That's fine to makes sense to me. I mean, they won't have armor, so they need
I
to
was
look
thinking something like 7'4". You know?
Yeah, I think that 7 foot women, or the female race being about 7 feet, and the male's 7.5 to 8 feet tall.
Oh, wait, no, I did do something else. Hold up. It's super rough still, but I did start working on something. Where's it at?
I want my Alethians to be able to punch a night elf in the head.
Punch his heart through his backbone.
Heck yeah.
There we go. When it opens up.
It's all right. Tell us a joke while it's opening up. You guys got to be ready for these jokes.
I'm not ready at all.
Well, here, I got one.
A clean joke.
Oh, it's good.
So I started doing like a guide for like the basic shapes you want to have for tanks. I didn't get to the DPS or healer, but I was doing stuff like trying to keep like the angles of curves like to like 30 degrees on the pointy end, and trying to stay away from shapes like triangles and like octagons, things with more than like 8 sides, just because then it starts looking rounded or pointy.
Okay, I can dig that. I like that.
And then I did like example weapons that are really fast.
No, it's good though. I like that big warhammer.
I know, like they're cool. I kind of wanted to draw them, but I didn't have time.
Well, once we start getting, I mean, we've already started, like, you have a model there. Steve is starting to model. I'm working at modeling again. Now, I've not touched Maya since about 2005, so I'm playing a little bit of catch up. I have some models, some pictures of models I can show you that I used to be pretty good, and I will get there again. I plan on being that well by next Friday. So Steve is like, some of these guys have been working on this for years, like 3 to 4 years. I'm like, well, I put 3 to 4 hours into this thing. What the crap?
Yeah, I'm
But
kind of
it-
the same way.
What it was like riding a bike. I want to give Buzz and Zach definite kudos when I was at the Renaissance Center. I mean, Buzz is teaching, and I know that he's seen something in me that I can draw, and I'm a BS artist, of course. But I was never a great student in the university. I graduated because I was doing a puppet show, a 300 level. Not even kidding about that. But Buzz worked really hard on me, and he was he worked very diligently, and centering my pivot point, and then combining the models and watching my faces, and this was like riding a bike. Now it's fine tuning what I used to be able to do again. So I'm very excited about it. But I love that model. Now is it smoothed at all, or is this
I use smoothing groups.
okay?
Like, so I don't have like a smooth function. It's just naturally smooth between the faces.
Okay. I just smoothed my entire model. I'm like, it doesn't look good. But I will still show you, because people may be watching this video and go, I'm just starting out in Max or Maya, your favorite 3D app. You know, that's okay. We're going to have artists of all sorts of levels. Now, we're going to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. J, because you're in charge of all the character things. I hope we can concur to this. We will have a standard that we have to, you know, adhere to. And that's for myself as well. I can't put in a crap model.
Yeah, we'll definitely have standards. Like, we kind of have to if we want to make it something that we'll be proud of in the end. So,
Exactly. That's why I really want to, if you can, email me those bases that you have, and then also put them in the Dropbox so we can give it to any future modelers who want to do
Okay.
this. Because again, I really wanted to do that stylistic Tron cartoon style, and I think you nailed it here.
that's because I stole the Tron things. I took images and like sort of traced over them a little bit to make those silhouettes.
You didn't have to tell me that, but
No, like I took like 7 or 8 of them just to make sure it was right. Because like I tried hand drawing it and it just looked off, and then I like did it their way and it still looked off. But I guess it makes sense once I start drawing over it, kind of thing.
it's fine. It looks good, and we're going to make it our own anyway. And I'm a firm believer that, you know, it is the end results what matters. As long as we're not blatantly raping it off. That was so not what I meant. Ripping it. Sorry about that. Not blatantly ripping. Sorry, I really ripping it off. Let's not.
Well, yeah, I've already started monkeying with proportions because like the boots were just huge if you do the Tron thing with like big pony boots.
Right.
So maybe
All right,
not
I'm
quite
excited.
Tron legs, yeah.
Yeah. Good job. Let's go. Do you have any more to show before we go to Mr. Curtis?
Nope.
Another Max guy, and I won't hold that against you guys. I heard Steve. That was his snort, and he's holding the bridge of his nose right now. Oh, face palm. There you go. Take Mr. Curtis's screen, please.
Well, I've been working on CryEngine all week, so this is about an hour before class. Just trying to get back into creating good geometry, and as you can see, I need to practice. So
It's still not that bad. I mean, now to model though, we need to make sure they're in the T-pose. Not the T-pose. That is the T-pose, but the arms need to be in a relaxed position. It will help with skinning and rig, not so much rigging, but skinning. And it's so much easier just to throw them in the T-pose, extrude out like that, than instead of extruding at an angle. I actually, whenever I made my model, I made it all the way up to the shoulders, and then made a, well, I'll show you guys in a minute. It was separate geometry, and so I could line it up properly, and just took out faces and welded the edges together.
there you go.
Gotta
So
work
yeah, I've got a lot more work to do. I haven't mirrored anything over or anything like that, but
Looks
not
good.
bad. Not bad for an hour.
No, I like the pictorial range. You definitely can tell the deltoid, the shoulder. Not bad at all for an hour, dude. Well done.
Yeah, that's a cylinder.
Well, yeah. So far, I mean, but it's a work in progress. And my hopes are that I will be able to generate a base model like this within a day. Now, you know, putting all the fine details and then wrapping UVs, still working on mastering that, but I'm coming a long way and I'm really enjoying this. I really like the whole aspect of UVs and mapping, because it's another aspect of Photoshop. So
There
I'm
you
sorry, I keep rambling on. Anything you want to share, Mr. Steve Curtis?
Not really. I mean, I've really kind of been tunnel visioned on some of the VTM stuff, and I will have to get with Chris over the next week and figure out exactly what we want to nail down. And other than that, this was really just kind of a practice run. I've been doing so much environmental stuff that thought I should get in and play around with it a little bit, start getting my head back in that game. So
I like that. And again, hopefully within the next week or so, we can start generating 2 to 3 different, you know, base models for this game. And once we get them up, I know that you're working diligently on Facebook. I still want that comic book up, man. Still really bad. And then we do some screenshots of some of these models that we're putting up. I really think we're going to get some more artists. I mean, there's no secret we've lost some artists. That's fine right now because we needed to concentrate on the development of the game. But the more artists we have, the quicker we're going to be able to make this game.
Indeed.
Hoorah.
It's time to get it rolling.
Amen. All right, go ahead and take my screen, but do not laugh because I will cry. And so will kittens.
And ninjas.
Ninjas never cry, man. I'm a ninja. I never cry. Except in sad movies and when I'm hitting the privates.
You're not a ninja.
Dude, I'm so a ninja. So a ninja. I can even spell ninja backwards. That's me standing backwards, spelling it frontwards. Okay, here we go. My screen. Don't laugh. Here we go. So he's all smoothed out. I didn't like the smooth aspect at all. But I literally took, I don't know if I can unsmooth him. Display, where you at? Polygons, mesh. All right, I won't even try to unsmooth him. This is just a cylinder holding place for where the neck goes. And once we, you can tell my, this was done in a meeting today. So yeah, they don't really match up. Front view, shading. Yeah, doesn't really match up at all. So I'm excited to either rework my own image planes the proper way. Matches up better on the side view like this. That's what I was working on. I don't like the hands, so to speak, but it's a good practice run. And to prove to you guys that I can model. Come on, get bigger, as she said. Anyway, my Catwoman here. I loved it. Got the anatomy book out for the legs and blah, 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 all that stuff. Working on Teen Titans. My goal was to model every one of the Teen Titans up. I got to Robin. Then I'm like, yeah, Cyborg looks freaking awesome. And then I just ran out of time. And then I lost the program. My computer busted. And I literally have not touched Maya since 2005 or so. Well, it says 2008. It says 2008 and 13 here because I dug it up and wanted to put it on there. So there. So that's what I have so far. Once we get those image planes and the base stuff down, we'll have something that we can all work on, and it'll be more concrete. Mr. Wolf, you've been very silent. Your thoughts?
On what?
On anything you've seen so far or what you're wanting to work on?
Oh, I have some ideas. Gonna try and I got a picture of a Halo gun and gonna try and kind of draw over that and kind of draw over some kind of detail and see what else. I don't know. Got ideas.
That's good though. I mean, weapons are easy to create. My question to you guys, when I was with the Unreal Tournament guys, we'd only model half the weapon because it's, first-person shooter. You didn't need to waste the polygons on the other side. But since this is an MMO game, we need to model all sides, correct? Or we don't have any first-person shooter aspects at all.
You can model half of the gun and then mirror it, and I think that'll save polys, yeah. And then just like you're tacking stuff onto the characters, you could tack on scopes and stuff.
That sounds good. Are we going to have any first-person aspects at all in the arena, Mr. NATO?
No, probably not.
That makes it easier then. Okay then. Any other thoughts on art projects or what we want to do next? Do we want to continue to make or polish up the assets that we're creating and working on right now?
That's probably the best idea. It's just so we'll have good stuff to put in the game. So I'm all for polishing our stuff up and trying to get it actually into the game. Like,
Okay.
I plan on keep working on my stuff.
Works for me. What do you want the other guys and gals, well, there's no gals in here right now, to work on?
try modeling a character, and if you're not interested in modeling a character, maybe do weapons or something like that. We have plenty of concept art in the Dropbox folder of weapons and other things you could model.
Everybody hear that then?
Yeah, I haven't done any modeling since the Blender stuff, and that was just pretty much me learning, so I don't really necessarily remember too well. Not that I never modeled something on my own.
I'll bet he could help you create texture sheets.
I bet you could too.
I could learn how to. I want to learn how to do that. I think I could probably be good at that if I learned.
I'll have to remember how to properly unwrap a character before I do anything like that. Like, I haven't unwrapped a character in years. It's probably not going to be pretty at first.
Yeah, but the way I'm going about all this, again, all I have is working knowledge of back in 2004. There's so many new tools, so many new aspects, so many new programs that make that easier. Whether it's Maya or Max or ZBrush. Vincent was talking about how easy ZBrush is for texturing, not so much as the interface. He says that's very confusing.
Wow. It's a lot harder than it looks. The skill is actually in the sculpting, not in the using the program.
Ah.
And also what he didn't mention is that to really get the most out of it, you kind of need another 3D application like Maya or Max to bring a model back in and project detail from that. But really, in actual fact, with the level of detail on the polygons we're talking about and the style we're talking about, ZBrush is not actually going to be that useful for us.
Okay.
I mean, maybe in the sense of creating some very stylized terrain pieces, but that would be very much creating displacement or normal maps rather than doing whole characters to pull off diffuse maps. So yeah, try and stick to just basic diffuse maps. I would, if that would be my advice.
So we do not, again, just trying to get the workflow down, and I'm open to any suggestions. Do we want to try to use normal maps, do a high poly count and throw a normal map up so we can capture that and throw it on the low poly? Or we just want, here we go, it's stylized and, work with textures?
I think we're going to have to, I'm going to have to agree, we're going to have to go with just diffuse painted textures because not everyone's going to have access to the sculpting programs, so all the workload for doing the textures then would fall on the few people that do have Mudbox or ZBrush.
Yeah, and even then the quality that we're going to get out is going to be, not so much the quality, but the you wouldn't be able to appreciate the level of detail given the number of polys that we're giving.
Well, you can do highly stylized stuff in Mudbox and ZBrush. It's a faster way to do like painted textures when you can paint directly onto the model, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's
the way I like to work. But we need to practice making like the UV maps so that anyone can use them. So we have to be able to make the UV maps to like matte paint anyway in Photoshop. So we might as well just start with that.
Yep, I agree.
I like it. We're talking about the workflow and the essence now. So to recapture all this, we got the image planes thanks to Mr. J here. We will model our characters first, get 4 or 5 done, and as that's going on, we'll also learn texturing, and we're just doing normal diffuse maps, correct?
I would, yeah.
There are ways you can fake UV maps using the diffuse textures, and we might want to look into that, but it's something we can do once we actually have the diffuse maps done.
Fake UV maps?
There's ways you can trick Photoshop into making a UV map for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, being out of it for so long, diffuse maps, are you talking about procedural painting?
No, diffuse maps are like the matte, like painted texture. So you don't actually do any like fancy UVs that create the bumps and things like that. You just matte paint what you'd want, so it's just like a painted picture on top of the model.
Gotcha. So no bump maps, nothing spectacular like that will slow down the engine and all that.
Well, it won't slow down the engine. We're just thinking about realistically what we can get done since we don't have the same programs. We know people have Photoshop and GIMP, so we can just do it that way. And then we can also we can do spec maps and things like that too. We just have to keep the texture stylized. I'll try to work up how to do that this week, and I'll talk about it next week.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Hey, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Did you go through the ADP class?
The what?
Zach's Advanced Digital
Oh,
Production
no,
class?
no, I never did.
Does anybody know? Well, I know that they. I know that there's something about you know, doing textures and all that, you know, for that there. So that
Yeah.
should be a good resource.
Yeah, you can definitely go to some of the Photoshop sections in there and just see what he does with Photoshop and learn a ton. I have seen a few of those videos, and there are a lot of ways that we could approach texturing. I do agree with these guys that hand painting in the shadow and stuff right on the diffuse texture is probably the best way to go, just because not everybody has access to all the software.
Well, let's talk about the shading real quick. What position do we want the lighting source to be? Do we want to keep it all uniformed, all the same, or are we just going to go for what looks good? Or, again, I don't want to be nitpicky, but
Everything I've ever played with, you just kind of assume an overhead
okay.
daylight type light, so you know, you shadow the underneath of things. And
I mean, there are going to be all this sort of painted shadow should be quite subtle anyway, so that any, like if we do dynamic shadows over the top, that should overpower any painted shadows.
You know what an ambient occlusion is, right? We should try to like stick to like ambient occlusion style stuff where you're painting in shadows where things will always be shadowed, like their armpits and like between their legs, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
Well,
a good call.
I'd be happy to work on that stuff in Photoshop, but you know, I've never done it before. So anybody know a good first start? I mean, should I go straight to the ADP tutorials, or
ADP is good, and with a little thought, Wolf, you might be surprised just how much you really do know how to do it, and you just don't know that yet. But we'll talk about that.
right? Because I obviously I wouldn't need to unwrap it. That would be other people's job. All I would have to do is paint on it, but I still need to understand what it's supposed to look like in 3D.
Put it this way, if you were in Photoshop and say that you did a row along the top of like I don't, like a house shingles or something like that, okay, and you just had a painted diffuse of a row of house shingles, and if you copied that and then just filled that in black and stuck it underneath that layer, put some Gaussian blur on it and pulled it down just a few pixels, and that would suddenly start to look like it had depth. That's basically what we're talking about at its simplest form.
Yeah, although
It's just
I mean,
taking those textures and just adding in a little bit of that depth with shadow.
I guess we did a very basic very basic I'm blanking on a word, but I mean, we did for the Blender, we did something with that, and I have with, you know, texturing or coloring or something. It was very basic, but I have seen really complicated face UVs and stuff. It is kind of, if you don't know what you're looking at, it can be pretty confusing.
I agree. It's intimidating. I've never really learned how to do a lot of complicated unwrapping of UVs. That was never my job, but I'm looking forward to definitely learning it. That's one of the reasons I'm glad we're all here. A lot of us, that we've not done a ton of these things before. I don't think anybody has created an entire MMO game like what we're setting out to. So there is going to be a learning curve, and we will get frustrated at times. But I really believe we have the resources and the know-how, and I definitely think we have the drive.
Absolutely. I'm
Thank
gonna throw up a link here quick, guys. Somewhere right around 5 minutes, watch what he's doing in Photoshop, and that's basically what we're talking about. And you can find this stuff on YouTube. Easy enough.
Okay, thank you for the link. Any more art? Any other artists here tonight? Anybody here from Miguel?
I have heard of him. I don't.
Hey, you're here. Why haven't you been talking up, man? I don't have a list to see who's here. I just know there's people here. How you doing? Where you been at, man?
Well, a little bit busy and stranded for some days in Monterrey,
Well, I hope
Monterrey, Mexico.
I hope it was a good stranding.
Well, kind of, because of the rain, everything was blocked and I couldn't get out of there.
Well, hey, I'm glad you're here. Tell us, have you been working on anything?
No, I really haven't had time. I actually arrived a few minutes ago when you were showing your Robin. By the way, that was incredibly cool. I liked it.
Well, thank you very much. I will get to that level of detail again and more. That is my goal. So let me ask you, do you have any 3D chops, any 3D know-how so far?
Well, I do. I did for back at college. I did a kind of a virtual walkthrough. You can see it on YouTube if you want.
Why don't you bring it up to YouTube and we'll take your screen.
Okay.
You didn't see my bad model I did today. I'm not saying it's a bad model. I'm saying it's a work in progress. Again, it's like I haven't worked out in years, and getting back on the horse again, I get my muscles back.
Oh, I know I didn't see it, but if you like to show it, I won't judge you.
I'll show it while you're looking at getting your YouTube video up. Okay, don't make fun of it. Let me get my X-ray off, shading, X-ray, and he's all smoothed, so I like him kind of squarey better. There you have it. There you are. Yeah, kind of very rough, but it was good. Again, I've said this before, but it was nice to actually be back into 3D, and combining my limbs and my fingers and watching my faces and my poly count and just different aspects that I've not done in ages. So yeah, there you have it. There you are. Let's turn him off because he's ugly. Go back to this.
Well, it's a work in progress. Yeah.
It's a work. Well, you didn't hear the story. I had a pretty good jump on everything, and then I lost it. I always complaining to people like, dudes, save your work. And always save, like every 15, 20 minutes, save, and don't save over the same file over and over, because that too can be corrupted. Saves, and what I do, then save, and I just like, wow. They get mad at myself. I thought I'm an idiot. So then I only had 3 hours to do all that again, which in 3 hours I should have got a lot more done, and I will. So do you got your YouTube ready?
Just give me a second.
I'll give you a couple seconds. Mr. Steve, any words of encouragement?
I think everybody's doing pretty good. Like I said, I'll have to talk with Chris and figure out exactly what our game plan's going to be for the coming weeks. But the artwork's starting to take off, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. If you're like Wolf and you're not really familiar with the 3D program, man, show me what a ground texture looks like. I know you know Photoshop inside out. Just play around. Even if all you bring to the table is 20 texture sheets over the course of this, you brought a lot to the table.
Yeah.
So,
What is our first terrain that we were thinking about doing? I mean, can we think that far out yet? So
yeah, you can start thinking about the first one. It's going to be easiest probably if it's outdoor.
okay. I'm picturing like a lava type rock, sort of bad, evil area looking thing. What do you think? Would that be too complicated or too?
Well, not complicated, but Chris, what's the word I'm looking for?
Overdone?
Cliche, yeah.
Now, when you're talking about that kind of ground texture, you're talking about tileable texture, right?
Yes.
Which is a whole nother thing, how to make it tileable.
Oh, no, I can show you that in 5 minutes. It's easy.
All right, show me it. Do it.
Okay, I got to close a bunch of crap. Hang on.
Rock on the fly, Mr. Steve Curtis with his bad self. By the way, I do want to throw out a congratulations for you guys may or may not know, but Steve released his first VTM, and I want him to talk about what was going on with that. It's out, it's doing well, and 3D Buzz has got a lot more stuff in the works. I will not tip my hat and spill all the goodies just yet, but I know Nelson's been very busy. I got something coming out very soon, and Steve's got something else coming out soon.
I'll spill it. Nelson's got ASP.NET coming out, which is really cool and kick-ass, and I have an intro to CryEngine coming out, which is really cool, and you've got some really, really solid training in basic art skills that will really get anybody up to drawing in pretty short order. I actually sat and went through the whole thing, and I was pretty
Really?
impressed. Yeah, of course, dude. I had to make sure you didn't swear.
Okay,
I
have the video.
Sorry. Let's take Mr. Miguel's screen here. Yeah, I did my first still life in a very, very long time. But it was necessary. I'm like, no, I want to do character art. I want to do this. And Steve's like, no, 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 basic. I'll do basic character art. No, basic stuff.
Yeah, like I actually got him to do a still life.
Yeah, that was so not exciting, but there's some really good aspects of it that you can utilize for character art. You got to have a good solid foundation. So Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson, can you take Miguel's screen, please? Thank you, sir.
I'm liking this YouTube video, by the way, Steve.
Yeah, there's bunches of them out there, and with the experience you got with Photoshop, you know, you can see where you can pick up really quick on what they're doing. It's amazing how far a little bit of blurred white and black will go.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. He's got, I guess, you know, some things you separate and some things you don't. So when you don't separate them, it's kind of easier to read what's going on. But it probably still, like, I mean, if I just looked at, you know, the UVs without having context for them, I wouldn't know what I would be supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have some stuff we'll have to cover, but really, I think you're going to latch on really quick.
Yeah.
Miguel, did you do all this work?
Pretty much, yeah.
Look at that, man.
Yeah, Miguel knows how to model.
Yeah, dude, you know how to model.
Yeah, I kind of like buildings.
Does he have a bear head?
What?
Does he have a bear's head?
Actually, it's like a cougar on steroids.
Carolina Panthers. Wow. So you did all this, the camera angles, the walkthrough, the animation. Did you build a character as well?
Yeah, everything. The camera control, I actually took it from the VTMs of the third-person controller being here in 3D Pass.
Rock on, that is always nice to hear. Dude, all right, so you'll be modeling something for next week, correct?
Yes, I can. I finally got some time to spare, so that's why I'm here. If you want me to do anything,
I definitely do. Mr. J has thrown some image planes into the Dropbox. You do have access to the Dropbox, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Get those image planes we're going for. I don't know if you've seen the Tron Legacy cartoon. I wanted something stylized, something different from World of Warcraft, something different from Star Wars, something that we can make cool but definitely stylized so we don't have to worry about super photorealism. So I think Mr. J definitely captured that look. And with that, using those for base models, I'll tweak them for the Elysians, but we'll have a base line that we can all start from. That way we have a consistent style throughout the entire game. Miguel, and the lighting's great too, dude.
Yeah, that's Unity. All of this was ported to Unity, so the entire game. Well,
I'm darn
I modeled
impressed.
everything in 3D Mix.
Another Max guy. I mean, yay, Max.
Yeah, I don't like Maya. I don't get why people like Maya. It's so confusing. The interface, I don't get it.
I'm not going to say Max only. I love Maya too, but when it comes to game stuff, I just find Max faster generally.
And I don't have
found out that Maya
and I know
is
it better.
for anime.
Are you using Unity Pro?
Yeah, for that version I use the trial, the 30-day version, because I don't own the Pro. Just
why you
because
got
I wanted to get all the
shadows?
good-looking shadows. Yeah.
really good job. How long does it take you to do all this?
Well, about a year, because actually that's my university. That's the Faculty of Engineering. I actually had to go there and take a bunch of pictures, and measure the whole building by hand, practically.
Wow.
Because we didn't have access to the blueprints.
That is well done, man. Seriously, well done. I'm impressed. Mr. NATO, what do you think?
Sorry, I wasn't really paying much attention. Sorry, I was...
I can't call him out.
It's all good. I think we had a very good core team. I look forward to building it more and more and more and more. So, all right.
Absolutely. Hey, Nelson, if you want to grab my screen, I will show Wolf really quick how to create a tiling texture.
I'll be watching that too.
It's,
and that's
ridiculously easy.
Oh,
good job, Miguel.
All right, you guys got me?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, so I grabbed a ground texture out of my texture vault and just painted some really crappy color over the top of it. So at any rate, once you painted your whole texture, this is 512 by 512, just go up to filter, offset, and then make sure that both horizontal and vertical are the same as your texture size. And now you can barely see it, but you can see basically you've got a line across where those met. And then all you got to do is you can clone stamp, you can do whatever you want. Doesn't matter.
Hold on. Don't you mean half, not the entire texture size of the offset?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Otherwise you're just...
Because I'm just making it the way it is. Yeah. Thank you. See what I get for hurrying? And using what's already in there. Oops.
So yeah, you want half of your texture.
Half of your texture size.
And it puts the edges of your texture into the center, which means you can see how it's tiling.
Ah, okay.
And I don't know what I just did, but I actually have an edge over here. But at any rate, you can then...
Did that break it into 4 pieces?
Basically, yeah, it wraps it around like a clock.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's all still one piece.
So wait, at the top left, would that actually be the lower right of the image, or do I
well,
not get
basically, it'll take that image and like the upper right would be, say, your your original image, it'll move it down and rotate it, and then it'll move her over and rotate it and move it up and rotate it. Does that make sense?
All it's doing effectively is moving.
I'm going to explain this really
and
better.
walking from the left to the right or to the bottom to the top, so that it's essentially what it's doing is cutting your image down like the middle, top and bottom, left and right, and then just moving them across sort of one, so that the edges are no longer at the edge, they're in the middle.
I
Very
can't
cool.
picture it right now, but
It's really easy if you just go into Photoshop and mess around with it. If you just have like if you just put numbers on the screen,
Yeah.
or just text or something on the screen, you can see how the offset happens.
right.
So
But
this
yeah,
is 4
in
tiles.
fact, if you want, I'll actually create a little video tutorial with actual prepared textures instead of just this run into Photoshop before my computer
Now-
crashes.
So is this 4 separate tiles linked into one now?
Well, it's just one picture, but yeah, it essentially used the picture you started with and created essentially 4 smaller pictures. That way all the edges meet up, and all you have to do is clean up the seams in the middle.
Okay.
Wait, are those smaller pieces the entire?
The entire original image, yes.
Well,
What it does is
it's
it
confusing because there's like the big blotchy things, but I don't see those everywhere.
Yeah, this is crappy. Would you like me to make a video for you and throw it up on the Daily Drop?
Yeah, why don't
That'd
you
be
do
great.
that?
Yeah, it won't take that long.
basically all
That's
it's doing is like chopping it up into 4 pieces, and then where the outside edges would meet when the texture is tiling, since all the edges are the same for the
That's the middle now?
the outside edges become the middle. So what you want to do is edit the middle without touching the middle of each side of the thing. So you want to stay away from like the middle point on each one of those sides, but you can like mess with everything else to make it look like a solid image. And then when you like undo that filter, it should still look like it has no lines inside of it.
I wonder if I can...
Right, and then there's a way to make it to where you can see it tiling and see how you like that, right?
Yeah. If there's any errors in the tiling, you should be able to see it just with that one modifier.
Yeah, but you still maybe go, well, this is too repetitive, and so, like to get a greater sense, not for errors, but how well you like it for the purposes of what you're doing.
A lot of like how you use it inside of the game engine is gonna depend on like once you get into the game engine. And there are some tricks where you can actually do 2 similar textures and blend them together to cover up that repeating texture.
Well,
I don't know if you can do it, but
I'm
like
just
you
saying,
should be able to use that in Unity, but I don't know.
I'm just saying in Photoshop, isn't there an easy way to put it to where you can see it tiled without actually having to tile it yourself and match up?
Not that I know of. I've always had to tile it myself.
I think there's an easier way to do. I think I saw that somewhere.
Well,
you can tell
So
Photoshop
the end-
created tiling texture, but it won't be good.
at the end of the day, there's always the easy option, or there's the easy option you can spend your entire life looking for, or there's the way you know it will work. And often the way you know it will work is just the time-saving option, because you can mess around trying to find the easy way, quote unquote, which doesn't necessarily exist.
And even if you do see the tiling texture, when you get into the game engine, what you can do is create like a mask between 2 different textures, where you cover up the tiling by
Right.
having one larger texture that will cover up the tiling of the smaller texture.
Just in layers.
Yeah,
Right.
I know how to set it up in Unreal. I haven't tried doing that in Unity, mostly because I haven't tried using Unity at all yet.
Welcome to my world, man. I have to crash course Unity here soon.
But I'm assuming it'll be easy enough because you should be able to do an alpha mask between two different matte textures. Like it's a relatively simple thing to do once you know how to do it. It's just figuring out how to make the new tool do that thing.
Indeed. But yeah, I'll just do a quick tutorial and throw it up, Wolf.
Uh,
And
All right.
I'm going to write that down now, because otherwise I'll lie.
All right, guys and gals, we're at the top of the hour. Good meeting. I will have a better model for us next week. I encourage everyone to get those image planes from the Dropbox, or Wolf, start doing your thing, man. Every aspect is going to help this game. And I'm going to get a hold of Eve again on Facebook, see if we can't get her butt back and doing some stuff as well. Any last thoughts?
I was wondering if you were going to work on page 11 in the comic.
Is that me? Like, I know I haven't finished my page yet. I've been super
I was-
busy.
I was actually asking Derek, so because that's, so someone else is working on the other one while you're working on that one in this, or 12 or whatever. I don't know.
Page 11.
I was just wondering because Jizba is working on page 10, but as far as I know right now, that's no one's working on any other page.
I will start on that page next week on page 11 then. And Mr. Curtis, do you know when we'll start debuting the comic?
I do not for sure. We're trying to get some of this other stuff out and rolling for this month as fast as we can, and I'm not going to lie, it's probably going to be backdoored to that.
Okay. I understand. I'm sad, but I understand.
I know you're sad.
I understand. And guys, go like our 3D Buzz Facebook page and spread it around as well. Send out links. Hopefully soon we'll be running some contests, and be some gold nuggets on there linked to all sorts of cool stuff. So definitely visit that page and get the word out. So with that, I guess we will be taking our leave right now. Anybody else last comments, anything?
So you want me to try a model for next week, or
I would love
what
that.
you want me to do?
Mr.
Okay.
J?
That would be awesome. A note to anyone modeling Unity's units are in meters, so bear that in mind when you set up your program.
Did you want me
Yeah,
to talk
usually
about?
work in meters.
He's not American. Everyone else is meters and metric except us.
Yeah,
Well, I
that-
mean, like in Max, it'll default to a generic unit, and you need to go in and tell it to be meters.
yeah, I know. Just the image planes, where did you say they were?
In the
They're-
Dropbox.
They're in the Dropbox under Concept Art in my folder, and they're called Human Baselines. It's a PSD file.
Oh, okay, I see it. Thank you.
Chris,
Yeah.
what do you want us to make happen for next week?
Read the design document and give me some ideas about attributes.
Attributes?
Yeah, it'll if you read the document, it'll make sense.
Okay. Sounds like a plan, Sam. We can do that. Guys and gals, thank you very much for being with us tonight. We'll have a lot more to show next Wednesday, and we'll be back then. Thanks. Mr. 50 Shades, take us out.